So one guy that we've been hearing a lot about in the last few years, and it's been partially negative, partially positive, but more positive of late is definitely Austin Wells. He's a very intriguing player because he has been known for his power, and I believe he's in Double A right now, so he is moving up the ranks pretty quickly. Just trying to check and see how old he is, but I believe he's still fairly on the younger side, and he's 23 years old. So young kid, but he has power from the left side, I believe. He's a lefty batter. His glove was always kind of questionable, and that was the biggest concern with the Yankees system is they thought maybe he might not be able to hold his own as a catcher. But I believe his catching statistics have improved drastically within the last year or two. He made some adjustments, and now everything is looking a lot more crisp and clean for him. So with his power bat, I think he's a guy to definitely look out for in the upcoming season or two.
Yeah, I agree. I think Austin Wells is, I think, the one Yankees draft pick I've ever watched get picked live because he was picked during that weird 2020 5 round draft where there was no sports content. It was like
Yeah.
early June 2020. Um, but yeah, Austin Wells is an exciting prospect. On MLB.com, they rank his glove still as a 40. But if you hear within some of the reporters that we follow within the Yankees farm system, that watch Somerset, that watch Scranton. Um, there has been accounts of Austin Wells being an improved defender. So I don't think he's ever going to be a top tier defender, like you were saying, but we'll see. We'll see if it becomes like Gary, or maybe if we can get some, somewhat close to a Higgy. Probably wouldn't be as good as Higgy, but um, a serviceable pitch caller. Because you look at some of these grades, he has a 55 hit and a 55 power scouting rate on the 20 to 80 scale for scouting. And that's really high level for a catcher. He's starting in Double A. MLB.com has him ETA 2023, so maybe an end of year call up, which might be quick. He has been flying through the system. He was a 2020 draft pick without any rookie ball in 2020. So that would be really impressive. So, but he could platoon with Trevino, might be a good option.
Yeah.
But it's tough on a championship team to call up a catcher late in the season. So we'll see what they do with Austin Wells.
We'll see how much they like Ben Rortvedt too. I think that's going to play into it. Like this could be a guy that they can trade for some serious value as well at the deadline. So I'm really interested to see what their plan is with him.
Yeah, I agree. And behind him, I'll go next on a catcher. Um, Anthony Siegler, we've heard about a little bit. He's been in the system for a while, 2018 first round pick. He's gone up and down through the Yankees prospect rankings. Um, he was projected to be a good bat for a while, but I think Austin Wells is jumping him ultimately. The advantage with Siegler is that he was always supposed to have a bit better of a glove. But even on these MLB.com rankings, he doesn't even make the Yankees top 30. He's being jumped by guys like Antonio Gomez, who was signed out of Venezuela, who's in high A ball, as well as Josh Bro, who's the AAA catcher right now, the mainstay, along with Rortvedt, who played when he came back from injury last year. But even Bro, they have projecting as a high power guy, decent glove, kind of similar to Higgy. So yeah, I think Austin Wells is a guy who he's been flying up through the system. He would get the nod over guys like Siegler, who we've heard about for a while. And even Bro could be that backup option like Rob Brantley has been. But I don't see either of them really getting any play on the major league team.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's definitely some trade bait thrown in there.
Yeah. What I'd like to do, we've had a lot of conversation about our top prospect, Anthony Volpe. Um, so I'll jump into that because that's a bit of a tangential conversation with the MLB roster, with some of the prospects that came up late last year. So Anthony Volpe, we've heard about him for a while. He's our 2019 first round draft pick. Um, he's a top 10 player in baseball by all accounts. Um, according to some places, I think it might have been Fangraphs, or maybe it was even MLB.com. He's the highest rated prospect on their list that hasn't debuted in MLB yet. So that's a high end prospect. His ETA, I would say, is as early as April 2023, which is exciting. He's been in the system for a while. His bat grades out really well. The one thing with Volpe, and I'll tie it into the conversation with Peraza, is that Volpe has a fielding rate of 50, whereas Peraza has 60. So 60 is kind of that top level shortstop. The elites in baseball have 70, 60, 70. And then you have like Lindor and Correa are like 80 rank. But coming out of the farm, a 50, yeah, coming out of the farm like a 50 rank, and from what I saw of him in Somerset, if he got some run in Scranton at the end of the year. He looked really good defensively. Like he looked solid. Like I would prefer him defensively over IKF. But is his position on this team, do we keep Peraza? One, my question to you, or if we keep Peraza, where does Volpe come into this major league roster?
I think that, I mean, first of all, Volpe is going to be a really strong talent for us. Everything I've heard about him, his character, his demeanor, the way he plays, his intangible and tangible tools are all fantastic. So I think he is going to end up on this roster. Like I already said it earlier this episode, it's inevitable. I believe that he'll probably be at second base once he comes up. That just seems like the more proper fit for him right now. And I believe Peraza is probably the more fitting shortstop at the moment between the two. So that could change in the future, but I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think that transfers well for Volpe. I'm bringing up the prospect to second, especially when we have Donaldson. We'll see if he's on the roster still. Gold Glove defender at third, and then Oswald Peraza played a lot of. Oswaldo Cabrera played a lot of third coming up. I know he's like our util guy.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think we talked a bit before about Gleyber Torres. We'll see what that is naturally, but I think Volpe slots in well.
absolutely. Okay, cool. So I'm thinking for my last position player, I want to go with Trey Sweeney. I think is a very interesting name, compelling name because they drafted him. What was that? 2020, I want to say, or 2019.
Trey Sweeney in 2021, first round pick
Okay,
last year.
and he's another guy that I believe has like really smoothly transitioned through the system at a young age. And I think this is a guy who, because of how deep that middle infield shortstop pool is, the crop of shortstops that are in this Yankee system right now, he kind of gets forgotten just because you have Volpe and Peraza right in front of him. But that shouldn't sway people away from like looking at how good he could potentially be. And if anything, he would be a fantastic trade chip.
Yeah, definitely. We have so much depth at shortstop. Um, I think Trey Sweeney is a solid defender, but in terms of projectable shortstops, I think he's behind a line of 3 to 4 players, with that being Peraza, Volpe, IKF, maybe Oswaldo. Sweeney, by a lot of what the scouts have say, can project really well to third base, that his athleticism and his arm would transfer over pretty well. He has a really smooth swing. Um, he's listed at 6'4", 200, which is bigger than I even anticipated him being, because he's kind of lanky, somewhat young. I mean, 22 years old. It seems like that used to be really young, and it's not as young anymore. But I think he
Yep.
has potential to really grow into his body even more, get some power numbers. He has a hit tool rated by MLB of 55, which is very high. So at worst, with us giving out big contracts to some of our top players potentially, Aaron Judge, um,
Never heard of him.
for him being a value in field piece at an everyday major league level, I could see him projecting out there. And at the worst, we got to get a big player. Trey Sweeney is going to be a top prospect. He's number 9 for us in a good there's some debate in a good farm system. He's number 9. He could be a top 5 shortstop, and I think he will be an MLB player.
For sure. It's a matter of if it's going to be with the Yankees or with another team
Yeah.
at the end.
And his ETA is also 2024, they say. So he'll have a year in the farm at least,
Very close.
which also will help us potentially a deadline move to shop him this year, because I think teams will see him getting close to major league ready this year, and then set to be on an opening day roster in 2024.
Absolutely.